Why did you do that? There's nothing wrong with the brass. Something's busted with your rifle.
Oh, yeah? Let's see. Placing the rifle on the table, the Baron worked the bolt to eject the cartridge, then yanked an eating knife from his belt. Carefully running the edge of the blade around the bullet, the Baron separated lead from brass and emptied the cartridge onto the table. The wind blew the contents around. There was dry, white sand poured from the brass.
Dumb. Trying to buy his way past the gate with dumb.
The Baron strode around the table, pulling out one of his hand blasters.
Cowards, pirates, Thunderbill, top feed the big good. Well, you see the inside of my bill nailed to the front of the Newton gate.
No, please, I didn't know. Please, I only was...
The two Seckmen felt bullets rip into their knees and blow them apart, bone and blood spraying onto the ground. The traitor had come up with two tiny blasters in his hands, the little Derringers almost completely hidden by his dirty fingers. Jeffers fired his wheel guns, moved to the side, then fired once more at the traitorous Coldheart. One of his pistols jammed, but the other blew smoke and flame. Hitting the mud, Jeffers rolled to the side and came up with only a smoking hole in his jacket. The Baron went to fire the second gun again. Digger aimed his two guns at the Baron. Suddenly, a white-hot pain lanced into his back. The barbed tip of a crossbow bolt thrust out of his chest. Dropping both of the little guns, he clutched his chest, blood dribbling through his dirty fingers. Pulling a knife, Jeffers started forward when another feathered bullet stabbed into Digger's hip. A third went completely through his belly, tearing a ropey, lengthened intestine on either side. Spasming from the pain, the traitor slid to the mud. Kneeling on the ground, Jeffers slashed his blade across the man's throat. Jeffers stood and waved at the archers on the mill wall. One of them waved back in acknowledgement and made a gesture of coming out. But Jeffers waved that off. There was something wrong here. He didn't want those mill gates open until he knew for sure that it was safe. The hairs were standing up on the back of his neck. Striding to the fallen Seckmen, the Baron saw that they were both dead, and he closed their eyes with his fingertips. Damn it! They had both been good men, his brothers in battle, killed by the jacking Coldheart. A boiling rage built inside the Baron, but he forced it down. Getting angry wouldn't bring them back. Kneeling near the body of the traitor, the Baron retrieved the Derringers and searched his clothing to find more ammo that fit the little palm blasters. He reloaded them both and tucked the guns into his pockets.
Now why didn't the damn thief try to sell me these?
Nervously pulling out a handgun, the Baron purged the spent chambers and started the laborious reloading process while he studied the landscape. Nothing was in sight but flat ground all the way to the Ojai River. He went stiff. Shit. His gaze fixed skyward. Not a bird in sight around their nest. The eagles were gone.
Oh, fuck no, not again.
Jeffers spun just in time to see something plummet out of the thin air and hit the ground halfway between him and the Ville.
Look at shit!
As he hit the ground, he felt fire erupt inside his chest and he snapped forward. A wave of adrenaline forced the man to his feet. He weakly pulled up both Derringers and fired at the sky. This detonation occurred directly on the overhanging block above the Duodenum. The Baron watched as the rocky overhang started to splinter along its base. People scrambled as the overhang sank lower and lower from the side of the mesa. And then came trees. With his heart pounding, Jeffers staggered toward the Duodenum and saw the colossal slab of granite beneath him. The walls crumbled like sand.
copy. Can you hear me? You on your way? I'm getting out of ag base for TJ Campbell. Okay, I was just wondering, I'm still about 2 or 3 trucks ahead. I'm not hearing you at all.
Yeah, that's what I told you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is this your first time here?
Yeah.
Yes, that is the name on your board. Correct, yes.
That is correct, ma'am.
After a few minutes, and the car was rushed to the right there,
And when you come on the scale with your truck number, are you weighing 50,001 or are you weighing 54 or weighing 6?
That's 001. Crystal ball flushed the red light in her face. Green eyes flashed at the information. The old man had made it clear to us in the hallway when he came up to the door. The walls were orange with black stripes. The background was in the The Daniels had never been to this room before. The conditions were good and bad. Standing without effort, Crystal straightened her playbook and doing a few of the buttons on her shirt. It was small for the place, as it was already been filled with plastic. The military edition prize had been seen. Other than a rush, and I found something more serviceable than this one. Shooting back at the university cut, Crystal checked the nothing in her pockets. Then she was over.
ANA 346 coming out for Nicky Way.
Still on the plastic floor, the man with the silver hood used to mark the tall and chubby,
And 373 coming off for empty way.
Indeed, you are quite correct.
And 363 coming on for an empty way. Load that ag base all the way in the back there. And 362 coming on for a fairway. Gonna get D-Rock on the dunny.
From the savage wastelands of the early 22nd century, their skills as a trained physician were beyond price, even though Miller had virtually no instruments of medicine. The med kit hanging over her shoulder was merely a patched canvas gun salvaged from the U.S. Army National Guard. The bag was filled with strips of burlap cloth used as bandages, a small plastic bottle of cleaning liquid, a shot for disinfectant, packed razor blades that had been found by the supermarket for scalpels, and a similar complete items. She It feels fine. Now, Jack Warren used the back of the hand to keep things in. Came away from the wall where he had been sitting. It was still comfortable, as if the fellow was not alive enough to look for him. He was trying to keep it hidden from the others. The travels of the Nephilim had been getting to him in the carpet. It was taking longer and longer for him to get back on his feet each time. It was a strange condition for the environment.
360, A&A coming up to go.
Okay, I'm going to have to advise you, all you can get out of here with is 80,000. Okay?
Truck 361 A&A, picking up D-Rock, taking it to airport place, coming in for a wave.
Well, we'll see how you come out first, because I don't know whether or not those gates are going to be able to close on this ag base. If you have to dump some of it off, and I just assume not to have to dump the whole load.
Swan 302, going for the Skelter Amphiway.
Whoa! It's colder than a demon's teeth again. The government discovered that it's a metal in the mirrors, as well as losing things. Those are what's also in the water. If anybody was foolish enough to turn back to the flood, the person might lose a few years. It's kind of these things as they go. Only the woman is successful.
Now, if you get this load in, we can adjust it from there. But she can't print a ticket 1 pound over 80,000.
Impossible. The reactors in the basement are going down. Keep the basement.
All roads paving, truck 154 coming on for empty weight, picking up ag base, going to 2408.
There you go.
All roads climbing, truck 02. Lindy Way. S&G trucking number 1, empty weight.
Think of the unit. Now! We jump right fucking now!
Morning, Mr. John. Let's go with 23 and a half, please.
Last destination the LG button was no longer active. Couldn't send the ball to the elevator's left.
Say again?
We're on the 80,000 pounds, can't get out over 80.
That's right.
10-4.
Rising stiffly from his throne, the old Baron recognised the gates in front of the lighthouse. All population
143/1, empty way, brake stroking.
reaching twice the height of the man, the stack of wood was found covered with strong rope. It appeared to be dead, wrapped in swift canvas, the body remained accidentally dropped newborn infants onto stones to save the poor things from the endless days of painful starvation until sweet death finally set them free. The crops were dying, and the stores of pre-dark cans all gone. Many of his people were eating cactus from the desert, or the little lizards that came out at night. A breeze shifted the smoke from the pyre, and the Baron flinched slightly from the smell of burning flesh. Edmund had been on a scav run in the distant ruins, and miraculously found a cache of pre-dark canned goods. The cans that bulged from internal pressure, experience teaching them that those were deadly to eat for man, beast, and beauty. But there had been many more in good condition. 50 cans of food. 50. A bounty beyond imagination. The cans had all been mixed with clean water, and then boiled for the length of a new candle to kill any waste-formed poisons. When done, the contents would have made enough soup for the whole bill. In this time of famine, it was a godsend, and his son was hailed as a savior by the famished people. Baron Tregard stood and shook a fist at the trembling prisoners.
Stole soup and spilled the rest. All of it. Mercy!
A Sekman alongside the brazen prisoner thrust down his long gun. The wooden stock rammed into the man's face. The criminal fell to his knees, a thin arm thrown across his face as protection. Blood flowed down his cheek and dribbled onto his filthy clothing. The other thief burst into tears, too.
Make soup of them! Cook the fools over the young Baron's fire!
Baron Tregart frowned until they raggedly ceased. Had they come to that at last? To eat their own dead to stay alive? Once more the Baron stared in open hatred at the cringing thieves. He wasn't a brutal ruler, might have forgiven them taking the food, but they had clubbed a Sekhmet to do it. The Sekhmet on guard that night was his own son, standing in for a childhood friend who was too weak to be near the food, the smell of the cooking soup making him too dizzy to stand. All through last night, Edmund had burned with fever, with ill healer doing what she could, but even her herbs and poultices had been consumed during the famine. His daughter had cut her wrist and tried to feed her dying brother some of her own blood to give him strength. But in his delirium, the man refused. By dawn, Edmund was dead. The child had foretold of this. Baron Tregart remembered bitterly. Food would destroy the village. He had thought the Doomy was talking about poison food. Apparently not. Just starvation. The one enemy the Sekhmet couldn't stop with blasters.
Captain Zane!
Looking up at the throne, Zane Dolbert gave a salute.
Yes, Baron? After the funeral, kill Edmund's dogs. Baron? You heard me, Zane. Kill the guard dogs. There's no other food. Most of my men will refuse. You will not kill them.
Well, if you order it, Baron, I'll ace the dogs myself. My men will not eat.
Pioneer 122-319, stepping on for M28.
They stood by our sides against the Unis and Cold Hearts, even the machines that came in from the high desert. The Yanks are buried in the Iron Yard where the Sekhmet will died in battle.
Then let them refuse. There'll be more soup for the Villfolk. But save half the broth. Your men will eat when they get hungry enough.
That won't be necessary, Father.
Tregart looked into the crowd for the source of that last voice. As the people quickly moved aside, a young woman strode forward to stop at the bottom of the stairs, leading to the dais. She would have been absolutely beautiful, but her cold eyes...
Get him trucking 001 coming on with ag base for pick him.
The cascade of long blonde hair fell to her waist, bound by a rawhide net and a thick ponytail. As she opened her ancient leather jacket, the gun belt was exposed, with a shiny gun riding at her hip. The Baron blinked at the sight.
Blaster? Where's Sandra found the blaster? You're late, daughter.
Sandra Tregart looked at the raging bonfire across the courtyard for only a moment, then faced her father once more. She loosened the blue scarf around her neck.
There was business to do.
What kind of business is more important than this funeral?
See for yourself.
Suddenly, a line of men marched into view, carrying bundles and baskets.
I have gotten us 20 dead horses, 1 mule, and 14 dogs, all butchered and ready to be cooked into jerky. Plus, 100 pounds of flour, 50 pounds of dried vegetables, 30 of rice, 20 loaves of bread, 10 cans of fruit, and enough corn seeds to plant half our cropland.
Some of the Wrinkleys fell to their knees, openly weeping in relief. Baron Tregart could only gape at the sight of the baskets being placed at the foot of the dais. Food, endless food spread in front of him, the salty smell of the fresh meat driving a knife of hunger into his empty belly. Sandra took a small round of bread from the basket and tossed it to her father. He made the catch and stared at the golden brown crust cradled in his bony hand, as if it were the first bread ever made in the history of the world.
There are also 20 bottles of shine. I claim it all for myself, and we ain't. Agreed?
Yes. Yes, of course. Whatever you want. Say! Get 10 strong men and gather all the wood you can find. Build a cooking fire on the other side of the mill, far away from here.
Looking at the towering flames of the pyre, the sect chief frowned.
Upwind from here, you mean, Baron?
Yes. Good thinking. Use an entire horse and 20 pounds of vegetables for soup. Then get 5 women to start making bread. Use half the flour, the rest goes into the armory for safekeeping.
Have the guards make sure that everybody drinks a bowl of thin broth before getting any meat, or else they'll just vomit it back out. Whip the first person who gets sick, and the rest will eat slowly. That's all the food there is. We make it last, or we die this winterfall.
Yes, my lady.
The sect chief placed a fist to his heart. Both the Baron and Sandra raised an eyebrow at that. Such a salute was reserved only for the Baron and his wife. Sandra held the sect man's gaze for a long moment, then regally nodded.
All right, people, let's get to work.
People rushed to obey. The Baron leaned back in his throne.
So, it appears you are finally in charge, dear daughter. Your brother still burns and he has already been replaced.
The woman said nothing, her thoughts dark and private.
Shall I jump into the funeral pyre next?
I do not want to believe. I never can. No.
Foolish dreams. All this food, that's too much. It's the wealth of an entire ville. Jeffers would never give so much for what we had to offer in trade.
Taking a round of bread from the basket, Sandra pulled out a knife and cut off a slice.
Oh, but he did.
Did you bed him for this will? Did you trade your honor to save the bill?
There are blasters, too.
She tossed the bread back into the basket. Reaching into a pocket of the leather jacket, Sandra pulled out a wad of great cloth. She placed it on the arm of the throne. The Baron folded back the oily cloth to expose her wheel gun. The metal was unblemished without any sign of rust, and the barrel shone with a blue tint like winter ice. Sandra pulled out a fat leather pouch and laid it next to her. So it was filled with red shot and a clear plastic jar of white powder.
So, you did it.
Yes.
That meal you brought in was yours.
A group of sectmen tossed the bread with their tree branch, normally used for hanging outlanders, and hauled the dead mule into the air. Even before its hooves left the ground, a child slid a plastic basin underneath, and the big woman started skinning the beast with a sharp knife. Smiling slightly, Sandra shrugged.
He didn't need any more.
Were there any survivors? I know about the power of the angel, but surely he could not have. I mean, an entire bill?
Tommy, no, they're still coming up empty.
One bill died, so another came in.
But you took all their food.
All that I can find. Some of it is
Slumping in his throne, the little Baron tried to come to grips with the idea of jacking the dead. However, Jack was a good friend. Long ago, the two girls had fought together in many wars. Was that kind of honor to be broken with the words of the Baron? Pitching up his loose pants, Burley second approached the place, dangerously squeaking.
Outbound 8A 346, D-Rock to Dunnick.
One loader, front line, right, offset 20.